Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the online conference experience and have enjoyed the networking. So our next session is titled Next Generation Residential, Creating Inclusive and Safe Residential Solutions. So this session will combine presentations from our speakers and also some discussion and some Q&A. So please do use the chat function when you can. Our speakers today on our virtual stage are Alex Impey, who is the founder of XUSA Properties. Zoe Sharp is the development manager at Dandara Living. Guy Horn is the managing director at HS Property Group. And Evan Main-Donald is the founder and CEO of Melt Property. So first up on stage, we're going to hear from Alex.
Thank you very much, Phil. Much appreciated.
I'll just invite the others to leave the stage, if you would.
Fantastic. So can everyone see my slides? Yeah, great. Making quality living both affordable and enjoyable for everyone. That's basically what drives us at XUSA. We coin it as our massive transformative purpose, which is MTP. It's a big of a mouthful. That's really the purpose behind us. You know, we want to create this quality living and affordable experience for everybody. The company XUSA is quite young. It's about two and a half years old, although you know the founder's probably not looking so young with the grey hairs these days. And it was really born from my own experiences. And just to give you a quick background, you know, I was raised in a single parent family. We spent a lot of time in social and affordable housing, or council housing at the point when it was called then, and really realized the importance of having a solid home to live in, you know, to kind of help nurture that experience and to grow it into a career and beyond that. That then culminated in me living in, you know, buying one of my houses, my first house in London, and it was a Help to Buy scheme. But I remember the real difficulties I had of this gentrified living, where you had an affordable housing block in one area and then a private housing in the other area, and the aggravation that caused, the stigmatization it caused from both sides. And I remember thinking there has to be a better way to do this. There's a better way to bring social and private together, but really provide affordable living for everyone. And that's how the idea of XUSA came around. We're very much a niche property developer, and you'll find out a little bit more about this later. But you can hopefully see what we're trying to achieve over the next 5 to 10 years. And on our next slide, I'll be talking a little bit more about our key stakeholders and how we've come up with this solution. So we call it the family. You know, we're very much a collaborative company, and we're trying to work. You know, when we built this model, we wanted to look at who our residents and our customers were. And we identify this into 3 stakeholders. We have our residents, which are both commercial and residential. We have our social enterprises, so local authorities, local housing authorities, and our investors. And in turn, we looked at each of one of the problems that these guys face today. And our residents were very specific. We work with 18 to 38-year-olds, young professionals, aspirational renters. And we found that, you know, there wasn't enough quality of different tenures of living. Not everyone wants to be a homeowner, not everyone wants to rent, but everyone wants a community to live in, that they feel accepted and at affordable prices. You know, the average age now for someone to buy a house is 33 in the UK. The average property price is £210,000. It's just not acceptable. We need to bring that down, and that's what we're trying to focus on. Same for our tenants. We wanted to provide a safe and stable haven where they could flourish, both local and national. We all know what's going on in the environment today and the economic situation in the UK commercially. And so giving them a space where they've got a dedicated footfall, both plugging into a community internally and externally, can provide those options, and creating some more flexibility for them can really help those guys thrive. Social enterprises, we all know that the PWLB interest rates were increased, you know, council budgets are being cut, yet they're demanding that the housing demand and stock is ever increasing. So we need to support our public partners. As a private partner, we want to help get their ambitions realized and utilize them as a partnership. And finally, the investors, known as the black sheep, probably to many people, although I'm sure my investors wouldn't like me calling them black sheep. Often they were thought of as just someone who's there to make money, but we're finding more and more that they have a social responsibility. They want to see social outcomes as well as return on intellect and their cash. And we want to bring these three people together, these stakeholders together, to develop our model, which we'll talk about next in the next slide. So this is the XUSA model. It's built around 7 pillars. Right in the center is the heart, and that's the community, and that's our secret sauce. Essentially, unlike many other developers, we not only develop, but we follow it through into operations. And we bring all of these different aspects together to create this fantastic living experience. We look at end-to-end living, on-demand living, and a bespoke experience for our users. We focus on 2 areas: urban living, given that 90% of us will be living in cities in the next 10 to 15 years. But we also want to create some semi-urban opportunities to, within the light of today, where people commuting to the offices and to the cities will probably become less of a requirement. We want to offer some semi-urban opportunities there, but some really great living opportunities. The other part, which is the heart, as you can see in the middle there, is the mixed use, mixed tenure model. And mixed tenure is really key in offering both social and private. We don't commute our sums, we don't commute our Section 106 obligations. We bring in the social aspect, we bring in the private under one roof, and we work together as a community, removing that stigmatization. Offering the different tenure models of co-living, rental, and also home ownership gives that flexibility to our customers and our homeowner, to our residents. The mixed use, obviously, is the commercial elements, which can provide all parts of contentment for a human. So we look at the living, the working, the recreation, and the health, and that helps provide that on-demand experience. I touched on the public-private partnerships, but the other big point to mention is technology. And technology is right at the heart of mankind. We're in a new age now, a digital age, where communities drive in all experiences, and that also helps drive our community. We very much work in line with the UN Global Goals, the 17 Global Goal initiatives. If you haven't checked it out, please go and have a look. We work with number 11, which is creating sustainable cities and communities. And what I'll talk about now is actually one of our case studies, very, very quickly. If we pop to the next slide, what you can see here, this is actually recent. This is our Scottish flagship up in Aberdeen, close to one of the Dandara sites, and I'm sure Zoe's going to talk about that a little bit later about her model. But this is what the press has recently said about our potential development coming up there. Now, is it the future of modern living? I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge. But hopefully in the next slides, which Phil will touch on, I'll explain a little bit about what we're doing. And as I mentioned before, we have that fantastic product model which takes those 7 pillars but has community at heart. This is actually what we're trying to do in Aberdeen right now. The top left, you can see the giant greenhouse is what we nickname it now, which is an old office. And what you can see in the bottom photo and the 3D renders is what we're going to turn it into, which is a really state-of-the-art luxury community-based living experience. On the top right, you can see where there's going to be a co-working and makerspace. So we're very much about collaboration, starting up with entrepreneurs, but not just office space, makerspace for those people who are just starting up in engineering or in artists or a woodworker, to really create some space for them to collaborate and thrive. We've got a bar in the bottom left picture. You can see a bar, and that's our cafe restaurant where our residents and external community can relax. And at the bottom right, we have workshops and a gym facility, all on site. 50 apartments of 1 and 2 bedrooms, along with a mixed tenure model, and also 18,000 square foot of commercial space. And if we move on to the final slide, this is kind of a little bit of an impression of what you can expect to see inside. The top 2 pictures there are what we call the community street. So this is the point where commercial and residential mix together. We try and really create that collaboration. We very much focus on our customer. We're very much bespoke driven. We don't believe in build it and they come. We need, as developers, to get away from that and start really concentrating on what our customers and residents want. And this, after a lot of consultation with through online and engagements, is where we've come up with. And on the bottom, you can see a couple of the renders of what we're expecting, where we're very bold. We're very much geared towards what our customers want, as opposed to the traditional whitewash or the old cream type of environments. And then again, the community space, the corridors, we try to make an extension of the home so we can create great living experiences for our residents. So on that note, I'd just like to wrap up. I look forward to hearing questions from yourselves and also from our from the next panelists. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to Zoe from Dandara. Thank you very much.
I'll invite the others to join Evan back on stage. Fabulous presentations, guys. Thank you very much for those. You covered a wide range of residential topics there, and we got some great narrative on there. We've got about 12, 13 minutes left for Q&A. I just want to touch on a few points that you raised in your presentations, and then we've got 3 questions I can see in the chat function, if you have a look at that. Alex, I love your expression, community street, where commercial and resi mix. It's a great way of actually sort of visualizing what it is that you're looking to achieve there. But I wanted to ask you, your scheme that you highlighted was an office to resi scheme. Now, that's been highlighted quite a lot with the demise of commercial offices, with people working from home, that's likely to be something that happens a lot in the future over the next 2-3 years as we adjust. I guess it's not that easy converting your average office into a quality residential space, is it?
Yeah, I think obviously with the rise of PD, there was a big explosion of office to resi schemes. Some of them done really poorly, to be honest. I'm sure a lot of the guys know about this, and some done really well. But it's just like anything, even you do due diligence, that's what you're really looking for is, can you convert these spaces into usable habitats? What you find is the more modern office spaces like we took are actually a little bit more accessible and approachable for conversion. And so we're very careful for when we select that we can do that, and we work with our professional team to do it. I think it's an interesting point you raised about office space and where that future of office space will be. I think the rise of flexible working, co-working opportunities, we're trying to make the most of that as part of our overall offering. But I think we will see large office space above 30,000 square foot, a lot of that coming back onto market. Maybe not so much the small space, which is a bit more flexible, but the large office space, yes. I think that's an opportunity for developers and office vendors alike to kind of make the most of.
Thank you. Zoe, build to rent has clearly been around for quite a long time. I hadn't realised people are referring to 15 years in build to rent that you did. Obviously, just recently, it's become a lot more of a sort of recognised asset class now. What is your thinking on the shared space element of sort of build to rent and PRS schemes, and how that's likely to need to change in the future going forward? Again, sort of creating inclusive and safe residential solutions being the sort of subject matter here. In that context, what are your thoughts?
Well, just to clarify, the build to rent experience will have been historically PRS. So bespoke build to rent has been our pipeline that's just completed during this year. So that is purpose built for rental. PRS is where we'll also have your office conversions so existing buildings that have been converted for rental. With the space is absolutely something that is dealing with live is a very big not issue. It is something that we are dealing with, and our apartments and the types that we have is all about very efficient design, space, and gross to net. But clearly it's an issue for your policy makers and your policy influencers at the moment. So going through planning, we are seeing real concerns, I think, about seeing what's happened in the last 4 months and how that is taken forward in developments. So again, there's differences across planning authorities. But in Bristol, for instance, they have adopted the nationally described space standards. That is something that they will look to see. So ensuring sizes, spaces are complied with. We also, as a developer, we have our external space policy requirements through urban living SBDs and things like that. So livability aspects that we're required to meet anyway. As it happens with our Bristol scheme, there is extra provision so that you have the community space, whether it's external or internal, but we also, with over 3/4 of our apartments, will have private amenity space as well, by way of balconies and or private terraces. So that is, and actually for Dandara Living, the schemes that have come and completed through 2020 were 100% balcony offering, as well as your community space. So yeah, we're very conscious of it, and that's something that we factor into and have done already through our schemes. But we're constantly learning, and that is feeding back into, I would say, it's the flexibility of the communal space. So if, for instance, a gym area shuts down because of what we've been going through, can that be put to other use? So flexible working space, for instance.
Okay, thank you. Guy, Manchester seems to be good at encouraging entrepreneurs. It seems to have done quite well. And there's something about the culture of the city that people that grew up in Manchester want to put something back into Manchester. Do you think Manchester is quite unique in that regard? It's obviously motivated you to give something back with your particular sort of style of community housing.
I mean, it's a city so rich in culture. I grew up listening to Oasis, and you know, I grew up in Manchester, and I think everyone's got a lot of pride when it comes to Manchester, and we've seen that so many times, you know, down the years through football, through you know, the Manchester bombings. I think it's a great place to encourage entrepreneurs. I think a lot of people naturally have flocked to London, you know, probably over the last 10, 15 years. And I think over the last 5 years, we've definitely seen a big boom in activity in Manchester. I feel anyway, it's definitely now seen as the second city. Obviously, you can argue that against Birmingham, but a lot of people, yeah. And I think that a lot of independents are really encouraged in Manchester. You look at the Northern Quarter, we've seen a huge increase in companies relocating, you know, high-level companies relocating to areas like Salford Quays. You know, we saw the BBC, we saw HSBC. Obviously, that in turn has generated a big spike in property prices. So I think that's a lot of factors probably have contributed to what they call Manhattan. You know, so yeah, it's a great place to be. It's a place that we're really proud to be associated with as well.
Okay, I was going to go to Evan, but I probably won't right now. I'll wait for him to come back. So, Alex, I see you've answered Anna's question there on the chat function. Do you just want to provide a summary for those that haven't picked up on the chat in terms of Anna's question and your solution?
Yeah, sure. So Anna was asking about, you know, how do we, with the rise of people working from home post-COVID, you know, how do we, you know, tackle that as developers, along with the fact that we've got very, very tight NIA requirements and sales prices to kind of meet. What I said is, as a developer, what we used to do, and I use those as an example, is rather than trying to increase the space, which could decrease the actual sales value or causes issues from a GDV perspective, we try to bring in all the other offerings, all the other commercial offerings on site, and that's this on-demand end-to-end service. By creating a co-working or a maker space on site, you then actually create a space for the residents to use, so they don't need to travel to work, but they have an offering which both the residents can use and the external community can plug in. And I feel that's the way that we need to be looking at to approach these kind of challenges.
Okay, thank you. Scott Orm asks, do the panel believe that contractors have the knowledge and desire to fully understand new PropTech technologies, as investors and operators clearly do? Can I come to you, Evan, on that one?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And I think the answer is that you have to pick the right people to be working with. And that actually goes all the way through the supply chain, not just your contractor who's going to deliver it, but also the professionals that you work with right from planning stage, actually. So if you're going to be building in modular technology, you need to make sure that you plan from it right from planning application stage. And the reason for that is that building with modular is a bit like building in Lego. The modules have a certain size, and it might even depend on the supplier that you're working with. You need to make sure that your building is of the right shape and the right design to be able to actually accommodate whatever modular solution you're working with. And so actually, I think the key thing is to be working with design professionals who really understand modular and understand not only how it's designed, but how it's actually delivered in practical terms. It's something which is starting to gain a lot of momentum, and particularly in the residential sector, people like Top Hat are delivering some really interesting and cost-effective modular solutions. But there are a number of both UK, European, and Chinese modular suppliers who are now delivering very cost-effective commercial solutions as well. So I think it's the contractors who understand it are thin on the ground, and you have to be very careful about who you work with from a design perspective, and then push that into how you actually deliver the thing, rather than starting from the contracting end if you're looking at delivering modular.
Okay, thank you. Roger Black asked a procurement-related question. Alex, who's very quick off the mark, has already answered it, but just very briefly, Roger's question is obviously asking what your procurement strategies are and what you look for from the supply chain. Guy, can you lead off with a sort of 15-20-second answer to that? We'll try and fit it in before we finish.
It cut out there. It was a bit funny, but I think I think from our perspective, everything really slowed down from getting all the everything we needed to complete our work. So what we ended up saying, we kind of turned it on its head, as you tend to do when you got a problem, and you just said, well, you know what, we'll favour turnkey developments now. So I think that a lot of people now will actually say, as I touched on in my presentation, rather than doing the works themselves, how can they go out into existing developers who maybe might struggle to sell their accommodation now and actually acquire those turnkey assets rather than doing the work themselves. And I think that will hopefully lead on to a lot more collaborative working, moving forward. I think, when you're working with any partners, I guess general points to note is I guess your communication and reliability. I think if someone says they're going to do something, it's really important that they pull through, and if not, then that's communicated properly.
Okay. Final question. I won't go around the houses on that one. Final question. Evan, you were very positive about the economy sort of not necessarily dropping off, simply shifting, which is great. It's always good to hear developers like you with such a positive sort of frame of mind. Is that shared by the others on the panel? Zoe, are you guys as confident as Evan is?
Well, ultimately, with the macroeconomics is that the UK has a systemic housing problem. So in short, we're not building enough homes to meet demand, and that will continue to be the case. From a BTR perspective, we do see new money coming in from commercial and retail funds as residential income is proving to be the most resilient of any of the sectors. So we have a positive outlook, just kind of waiting to see, I guess.
Okay. Alex, can you give me your 15-second synopsis on that?
Yeah, I think where we struggle is our affordable homes and the social element. We're 60,000 off target of where we should be right now as a nation. And I think we are going to, where's going to be hit the most is affordable areas. And so working in that area to create opportunities for people to actually buy in a credit crunch situation is the key. But people can't afford to pay 210, 3, 4, 500,000 like they can in London, like in the prices are in London. So we need to combat as that developers is to find a way to bring that cost down. People can access it and stimulate that economy.
Okay, thank you. And Guy, your quick view on the market for 2020?
Yeah, I think probably quite similar actually, in the sense that, we saw a few years ago, there was about 4 billion pumped into the sector to help affordable housing. We're now, I think, seeing a fair larger amount. In addition to that, I think they're looking at 20,000 new homes a year. So, I think 3 billion that NatWest, for example, are looking to pledge. So I think it's about how can the government together, public and private, work together in order to continue investment into the sector, provide more affordable housing, and hopefully, I think we see polarization everywhere. How can we try and reduce the polarization, ensure that we bring the lower end up, but also, you know, the top end can help bring some capital into there and provide high quality homes for everyone who deserves them.
Great stuff. Okay, guys, thank you. We're out of time now, so I'm going to need to finish off here. We've overrun slightly. If you guys all want to head along to the VIP room, which if you look down the left-hand side, you'll click on that. And if you want to head over there, one of my colleagues will join you there. And to the rest of the audience, we will be back in 15 minutes. We have a presentation on the breakout stage from Magway. So we'll see you there shortly.